So hello and welcome to the 33rd Annual Colorado Book Awards. Thank you all for coming. My name's Maggie Koval. I'm Executive Director of Colorado Humanities, home of the Colorado Center for the Book, the state affiliate of the Library of Congress Center for the Book. I am pleased to welcome you all to our celebration here at the beautiful and historic Tivoli Turnhalle Theater. Tivoli Student Union is a historically beautiful and unique building. I hope you've had a chance to look around a little bit and see that here on the Auraria campus. We would like to thank Tej Bolin. Tej, are you here? I'm not sure if Tej is here. Well, we still want to thank Tej Bolin and the University of Colorado Denver's English Department for sponsoring the Book Awards on campus this year. So some applause for them, please. The Colorado Book Awards tagline this year is Imagine, Share, Celebrate. The authors, editors, and illustrators have devoted themselves to their manuscripts, in many cases for several years. Then the fruits of their labor were introduced to the world for the rest of us to enjoy. The Colorado Book Awards is, in part, an attempt to take the creation of a book from a solitary endeavor to a communal celebration, and to commend each finalist for their marvelous contribution to Colorado literature. Would all the finalists please stand? So let's raise our glasses in a toast to the amazing work of these Colorado authors, editors, and illustrators. Congratulations. This is a very lively crowd. At Colorado Humanities and Center for the Book, we firmly believe that the humanities belong to everyone. They are essential for our well-being, our growth, and for fostering an understanding of ourselves and others. They enable us to think critically, creatively to solve problems, and move toward a just and robust future. Through the disciplines of the humanities, we tell the human story. That is what we are here to celebrate this evening. Literature has always served as a window to the individual as well as the collective world. As you hear the winners read tonight and make your way through the Colorado Book Award finalist list this summer, we hope you'll be inspired to reflect on the role of literature, community, and the humanities in your lives and in the world. I'd like to take a moment to direct your attention to some postcards that were either on your chairs or your table. Colorado Humanities is currently engaged in a self-assessment and planning process. We invite you to take our survey and help us determine how best to serve you and the rest of our state in the future. So if you take a look at the postcard, there is a QR code there and a link to our survey. We would love to hear from you, so please help us out. So today, as you all know, we are here to recognize authors, editors, and illustrators in 15 categories. To accomplish this takes a full contingent of volunteers, talented staff, and strong program partners. Our volunteer selectors and judges are dedicated Colorado librarians, historians, writers, editors, teachers, artists, and readers. They contribute topical expertise, academic knowledge, and industry experience, and hours of reading. Then they engage in exhaustive discussions and negotiations. For all their skill and time, let's have a big hand for all the selectors and judges. And I'd now like to introduce Colorado Humanities Board Chair, Deb Kalish.
Thank you, Maggie. It's a pleasure to be here. It's Colorado Humanities' 50th year, and the 20th year the Colorado Center for the Book has been a program department of Colorado Humanities. I'd like to thank Colorado Humanities staff who are here, and if you would stand, please. Come on. I would also like to thank Colorado Humanities board members who are here today, and if you would also stand. I would like you to help us thank our Colorado congressional representatives for supporting federal funding for the National Endowment for the Humanities and Colorado Humanities. And please ask them to support continued funding, citing today's program as an example of the humanities at work. In addition, we have 4 supporters to thank. First, we'd like to thank the Colorado Sun. The newly nonprofit Colorado Sun continues to be a proud sponsor of the Colorado Book Awards and values the contributions of so many outstanding authors. Its weekly literary feature, Sun Lit, has showcased nearly 300 excerpts and author interviews since its inception, with finalists and winners of these awards forming the bedrock of its content. We would also like to thank Unite for Literacy, which is a social enterprise that partners with nonprofit organizations, educational entities, businesses, and philanthropic funders to change the literacy landscape of communities from arid book deserts to thriving book gardens. Through these partnerships across the nation, Unite for Literacy creates locally and culturally relevant books for children from birth to 8 years old, and then delivers printed copies of books to families' homes. The books on everyone's chairs tonight are provided by Unite for Literacy and are yours to keep. We would like to thank our bookseller tonight. The Bookies, an independent, local, and woman-owned bookstore, is a unique literary destination and public benefit corporation serving a diverse community of families, individuals, and educators for over 50 years. The Bookies creates lifelong readers by fostering a love of learning and the joy of discovery. In keeping with their mission, a percentage of the profits are donated to their nonprofit organization, Book Give. By shopping with the Bookies, you are helping get more books into more hands and out of landfills or recycling bins. We are very pleased to welcome a new sponsor this year, the Library of Congress John Y. Cole and Nancy E. Gwynn Trust Fund. John Cole is the founder of the Center for the Book in the Library of Congress and the driving force behind the creation of the state Centers for the Book. He was a source of inspiration and encouragement to the Colorado Center for the Book until his retirement in 2016. As we gather today, we honor and acknowledge that the Auraria Higher Education Center is on the traditional territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne and Arapaho nations. This area was also the site of trade, hunting, gathering, and healing for many other native nations: the Lakota, Ute, Kiowa, Comanche, Apache, Shoshone, and others. We recognize the indigenous peoples as the original stewards of the land, water, plants, and animals who called this place home. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties that these nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. Let us also acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal. We respect the many diverse indigenous peoples still connected to this land on which we gather. We also want to recognize and honor the community and families of Auraria who lived, worked, and worshiped at Auraria. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Now, I am honored and excited to move on to the presentation of the 33rd Annual Colorado Book Awards. Deb Kalish, who you just met, and Colorado Humanities board member Leah Witherow will announce each of the categories by first naming the finalists and then announcing the winner of the Colorado Book Award. If you are the recipient of the award, please bring your book to the stage to accept your award and to honor us all with a short reading from your work. Please take a moment to share any brief remarks before you read. Now, should you get wrapped up in the moment and lose all track of time while you're reading, Valerie Eddy, who most of you have met back there in the back of the room, will give you a cue from the back of the room to wrap it up. For those of you updating your social media accounts, please use hashtag Colorado Book Awards and hashtag Center for the Book as you spread the good news about this event and our winners. So let's get started.
Our first category is anthology. The finalists are Been Outside, Adventures of Black Women, Non-Binary, and Gender Nonconforming People in Nature by Amber Wendler and Shaz Zamor. Reading Colorado, A Literary Road Guide by Peter Anderson. Universe, Stories of the Reconvergence by Angie Hodap and Joshua Viola. Unplugged Voices, 125 Tales of Art and Life from Northern New Mexico, the Four Corners, and the West by Sarah Francis. And the Colorado Book Award in Anthology goes to Reading Colorado, A Literary Road Guide by Peter Anderson. Nice music. Oh, do you want to read?
I thought she was up there. Oh, there she is.
You okay? She wants us to.
Oh, this way.
In front of the sign.
Thank you.
Couple of quick thank yous. To Derek Lawrence and Caleb Sealing from Bauer House Books, who believed in this project. To all the great writers who have helped us to know this place called Colorado. To all of Colorado's librarians who help us find these books and their writers, and who defend our right to read whatever we want. To all the anthology editors today in this category and elsewhere, it's a labor of love, and thank you for your good work. This book is really a thank you to the great state of Colorado, which has been home for most of my adult life. It's a great pleasure and privilege to live here. And the book is an anthology of reflections on Colorado places, road by road, region by region. The idea was to make a book that would deepen any reader's map of this great state. I hope it does that. And I'd like to share with you just a short piece from the book. So, as I said, the book is kind of arranged road by road, region by region. I'm going to take you down to Highway 160 west of Durango. U.S. Highway 160 follows part of the historic Ute Trail from the Animas River to the Mancos River, skirting the southwestern base of the La Plata Mountains. Many dirt roads and pathways also follow Ute trails into the mountains to ancestral hunting grounds. My wife, Grace Catherine Anderson, who grew up on the southern edge of the La Platas, has written about her home mountain range for various newspapers and magazines. Here, she recalls a family outing on a snowy November morning, the first day of hunting season. We would gather in the basement, eyes downward, shouldering jackets, red vests, canvas packs, then our rifles, feeling through the darkness. The darkness was living, and we moved through it like water, cultivating silence within the darkness, building the silence by listening, waiting, expecting the next pulse, the next inhale, the next wave of twilight. We moved as parts of a whole, filing out of the basement, down the gravel driveway, into the carryall. Up on Cavernous Mountain, we'd file out of the truck, shoulder our packs, and begin dropping into East Mancos Canyon. Holding our rifles on the downslope, we'd fan out, stalking slowly along game trails, over blown down timber, through thick brush, the hazard of new snow on fallen leaves, always the prospect of slipping, falling, sliding down to the river. We'd reach for the invisible, intangible cord that might lead us to the elk herd, or maybe to a couple of bulls, all that we'd need to fill the freezer for the advancing winter. Hearts pounding, breath pluming, our minds a single will, within the silence, within the darkness. We'd wait while the starlight guttered, blackness brightening into blue-black, revealing pewter blue clouds, leaden with snow. We'd huddle, some standing, some leaning, some seated on down timber. One of us might speak, voice below a whisper, and we'd lean in, holding our breath. We'd lower our hooded heads and half close our eyes, half knowing what the speaker would say. In the breath of a breeze swirling around us, our dad stands, cradling his rifle, muzzle pointing downward, leading the rest of the way toward the benches, along the ridges, round the alpine forested wall that spills us into the basin. We move evenly together. Now the silence thickens. Light simmers over the peaks and spills into the basin. The silence contracts and tightens like a taut bow, the moment before release. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thanks to all the good writers here tonight.
Thank you, Peter. I should note, too, that if the authors would come up on this side of the stage, there's actually a handrail over there, so it's somewhat safer than coming up these steps over here. Our next category is creative nonfiction, and the finalists are Crossings, How Road Ecology is Shaping the Future of Our Planet by Ben Goldfarb, Living River, The Promise of the Mighty Colorado by Dave Showalter, Losing Music, a Memoir by John Cotter, Soil, The Story of a Black Mother's Garden by Camille T. Dungy. And the Colorado Book Award in Creative Nonfiction goes to Losing Music, a Memoir by John Cotter. John could not be here tonight. His friend Ryan is here to accept his award. Ryan? Here he comes. Run.
I did not think that I would be up here tonight doing this. I'm so glad for John, though, that this one. He did send me things, though, to say, so thank goodness. But whew, I'll say what what he's written, and then maybe talk a bit about the book. I did not prepare a reading because I just got this yesterday. So John is very sorry that he can't be here. He does miss Colorado. He wanted me to thank the judges and to thank Valerie and everyone at the Colorado Humanities for supporting this award and this evening. And I actually can relate to a lot of what he says here. I stutter, and I am a person with a disability, and John is now too. And we have talked a lot about that, and that sort of learning to live in the world differently. So people fear disability. They worry that it might happen to them or to somebody they love. They fear contagion. It's primal and it's understandable. It's also unkind and unworthy. John hopes that his win tonight will embolden other disabled writers and writers who live with chronic illness. But who knows? Losing music was necessary for John to write. After he fell ill and lost all of the pieces of the unreal future that he was trying to build, the imaginary future that we all think we'll get, he wrote losing music to claw his way back to the world and back to himself, whoever he'd become, somebody new. He's grateful for your encouragement and your welcome and for your grace. He wants me to communicate his love for this community here in Colorado and at Lighthouse, where he taught and still teaches. He wants you all to buy me a drink. Thank you. What about you?
Congratulations once again to John, and Ryan, I will buy you that drink. All right, our next category is general nonfiction, and the finalists are So Much Stuff: How Humans Discovered Tools, Invented Meaning, and Made More of Everything by Chip Colwell. Western Water A to Z: The History, Nature, and Culture of a Vanishing Resource by Robert R. Criffesy. When Innocence is Not Enough: Hidden Evidence and the Failed Promise of the Brady Rule by Thomas L. Dibdahl. And the Colorado Book Award in General Nonfiction goes to So Much Stuff: How Humans Discovered Tools, Invented Meaning, and Made More of Everything. Unfortunately, Chip couldn't be here with us tonight, but his wife, Amen Sirgu, will be accepting the award on his behalf, so please welcome her.
Thank you so much. I'm going to read first because I think that's the hard part. One freezing cold morning, I drove past the outer edges of Denver, past Buckley Air Force Base, past the suburban neighborhood huddled at the edge of the Great Plains. I saw, rising from the prairies, several low bumps lifting from the horizon like icebergs. At first, I assumed they were natural hills, but barreling down the road towards them, I realized they were too angular to be natural. Arrived at the base, I saw they were encircled by barbed wire, and I knew I'd reached my destination. I pulled into the Denver Arapahoe disposal site, cutely known as DADS, and I found the trailer where the tour was to start. I was part of a tour arranged by a local reporter. 10 people gathered around our guide, Doc Nero, a dad manager, middle-aged with a studious, geeky demeanor befitting of an engineer. I hope he's not here today. Nero began by telling us DADS is open 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. Every day, 800 trucks arrive, culminating in around 2 million tons of refuse a year piled high. We watch the trucks pull into the weigh station. It just doesn't slow down, Nero said, truck after truck. Climbing into a van, Nero took us to an area where a cell was being constructed, the foundation of a new mountain of trash. It was 25 acres and lined with clay and crushed glass to prevent liquid that would gather as the garbage breaks down from leaking into the groundwater. Once completed, the cell was filled with waste, reached 300 feet high within 2 years. Each mountain of trash as high as the Statue of Liberty, Big Ben, or Taj Mahal. Once we saw how the cell started, Nero took us to an active landfill area where we joined a line of traffic driving a steep, rough road to the top of the hill. We parked at the top and all got out of the van. I noted a scent vaguely like manure. We watched a line of trucks stopped around us and empty out everything imaginable. It looks like they've emptied out all the contents of my apartment and dumped it here, a man on the tour said, not jokingly. The wind whipped trash into the air like snow as 100-ton tractors compressed couches and cookie boxes and everything in between into the thick strata that contained the full record of modern life. The result, a dry tomb of waste that will endure for millennia. Standing there on a desolate hill, I imagine future archaeologists in the year AD 8000 prying open DADS, and like Howard Carter, when he first gazed into King Tut's tomb, whisper with awe, wonderful things. So Chip is away this weekend on a father-daughter camping trip with his cousin and his daughter that has been long awaited for a year, and he could not cancel. And unfortunately, he didn't give me remarks. He's not he's not like John. But when Chip was writing this book and he was writing the chapter on people who are hoarders, he came to me and he said, "Oh, now I'm starting to understand your thought process, because I'm much more of an accumulator than he is." And basically, this book really changed me and transformed my life in terms of what I think about stuff and what it means to me and why I need to have it in my possession. And hopefully, though, my hope is that it changes the world and all of us globally to really think about what we do need to accumulate. I also hope that it impacts big business in thinking about planned obsolescence and the impact that has on our environment, as well as our legislature, and making sure that they take to task big companies that produce a lot of waste and make sure that we're not paying for that and our children are not paying for that, but that these companies pay for it instead. So I thank you, and I really appreciate this award on the behalf of Chip.
Congratulations once again to Chip, and thank you so much, Amen. The next award category is historical fiction. The finalists are A Bakery in Paris by Amy K. Runyon, Paradise Undone, a novel of Jonestown by Annie Dawood, To Die Beautiful by Buzzy Jackson. And the Colorado Book Award in historical fiction goes to Die Beautiful by Buzzy Jackson.
Hi, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm a little overwhelmed. I did manage to bring my reading glasses though, thank goodness. First, I would just like to thank two people who are here with me today, my son, Jackson, and my partner, Benjamin Whitmer. Jackson, I would like to thank you for your patience with me. I'd like to really thank everyone in the room who is a family member or friend of a writer and supports us through all those long hours. I also had a parent who was a writer, so I know how the special challenges that are involved in being the child of one. And Jackson, thank you for being so patient with me. He also had the very good idea when I was working on this book. He said, "Why don't you just make it cost $1 million a copy, and then you just have to sell one copy." So I tried to get Penguin Random House on board. They didn't do it. Thank you, Benjamin Whitmer, also a writer here, also a member of Lighthouse Writers Workshop, as I am. Ben, thanks for your belief in me. It wouldn't have happened without you. And I'm just very, very grateful in general to the Colorado Humanities and all of the organizations, many of which have been mentioned already, all of our independent booksellers, all of our librarians, just everybody who works on behalf of books. I grew up in a bookstore myself, so I'm a true believer, and it makes a big difference. Anyway, without further ado, I thought I'd just read something very short. This book is based on the true story of a young woman named Hani Schaft, who was a young woman in the Netherlands in World War II. She was not Jewish herself, but she basically dropped everything and sacrificed everything to help her Jewish friends. And so I just thought I'd read a very short passage from the spring/summer of 1942 in Amsterdam. The Netherlands were occupied by the Nazis at this point. And in this moment, Hani and all of the people in the Netherlands are starting to realize kind of how bad things are actually getting in the war. And what's happened right here is that the Germans have changed the time in the giant clock that's in the middle of the plaza in the middle of Amsterdam. They've changed the time to Berlin time. And it's a very ominous moment for Hani and for everybody there. I felt the clock's presence everywhere, as if the Nazis controlled the weather, too. Everyone had to change their clocks to Berlin time if they wanted to synchronize with the train schedules. For a while, I refused to change mine, and a small pearl of resentment began to grow in me, a hard new layer forming each time I recalibrated my schedule with Berlin's. How does evil spread? Like a disease from one human to another? Or the way the new anti-Jewish measures sifted down into the private lives of Dutchmen, like dust in a closed room, mote by invisible mote, until one day we turned the key in the lock and found ourselves trapped, and then looked back at our little room and discovered it so entombed in filth it was not fit to live in anymore. The imposition of Berlin time awakened me to a new truth. We were not awaiting a tragedy, we were living it. Each time I looked at the alarm by my bedside and took the extra step of adjusting the clock, I felt that small, bitter pearl grow. Now, when I walk through the city, yellow stars screamed at me from street corners. Do something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Buzzy. The next award category is History. The finalists are Galloping Gourmet, Eating and Drinking with Buffalo Bill by Steve Friesen, Hilos Culturales, Cultural Threads of the San Luis by Enrique Lamidrad, Women of the Colorado Gold Rush Era by J.V.L. Bell and Jan Yuna. And the Colorado Book Award in History goes to Women of the Colorado Gold Rush Era by J.V.L. Bell and Jan Gunya.
Wow, thank you so much. Julie and I are so gratified to receive this huge honor for our book, Women of the Colorado Gold Rush Era. The book is a collection of 10 biographies of Native American, Hispanic, Anglo, and African American women who came to this area either with the Pikes Peak Gold Rush or already lived here and suffered the impact of the influx of the miners. I'm going to read the introductory paragraph to the Albina Washburn's biography. A pioneer in multiple senses of the word, Albina Washburn not only helped open new land for Anglo settlement, but she also sought to open people's minds to political, economic, and social reforms. She and her family came to the Pikes Peak region with the intention of making their living by farming and selling their produce to miners. The Washburns established one of the first successful dairy and fruit farms in what would become the town of Loveland in Larimer County. There was no school, so Albina founded one and briefly served as teacher. She joined the Grange, worked for women's suffrage, organized and managed women's cooperative exchanges, and supported labor unions. In the 1900 United States Census, she listed her occupation as radical reformer, an apt description for a woman who spent her life battling against moneyed corporations and for the common people, especially for women's equality. Now my very talented co-writer and friend, Julie, will tell you a little bit about one of our Native American women.
Thank you. There are so many people we'd like to thank, but we'll start with our husbands because, like other people out there, the family just supports you. But this book took so much time and research, and we had COVID, and we were so thankful to the libraries and the museums and the research people, all who opened their doors for us and sent us information. And so we couldn't have done it without a large support group. And one of the biographies is about a woman from the San Luis Valley, and that was co-written by Maria Martinez, because I couldn't have done it myself. I don't speak Spanish. And so she's another one we need to thank. So I'm going to read you the first paragraph about Amachi Prowers. And most people think of Amachi as a really dark time in our Colorado's history. But Amachi was actually this amazing Cheyenne woman. So here's a little introduction to her. At sundown on November 26, 1864, United States soldiers of Company E, 1st Colorado Cavalry, arrived at the Prowers Ranch on Cadova Creek in what is today Bent County and disarmed the men, including Amachi Prowers' husband, John. Under the command of Corporal Cook, the soldiers held the residents at the ranch, the residents of the ranch prisoners for several days. They were released only after John Chivington, Commander Colonel of the Military District of Colorado, and his forces had annihilated peaceful Cheyenne and Arapaho camp near Sand Creek, about 80 miles to the northeast of the Prowers Ranch. Amachi's father and many of her Southern Cheyenne relatives were killed in what later became known as the Sand Creek Massacre. Years later, Amachi was introduced to Colonel Chivington and was asked whether she knew him. According to her daughter, Mary, Amachi drew herself up with that stately dignity, particular to her people, and ignoring the outstretched hand, remarked in perfect English, audible to all in the room, "No, Colonel Chivington, I should. He was my father's murderer." Thank you.
Thank you, Julie and Jan. Our next category is mystery, and the finalists are Blood Betrayal, a Detective Inaya Raman novel by Asma Khan. Standing Dead, a Timber Creek K-9 mystery by Margaret Mizushima. Take the Honey and Run, a beekeeping mystery by Jenny Martz. And the Colorado Book Award in mystery goes to Blood Betrayal, a Detective Inaya Raman novel by Asma Khan. Asma could not be here today, but we congratulate her on this win.
All right, our next category is the novel, and the finalists are Homestead, a novel by Melinda Moustakis; The Applicant, a novel by Nazli Koja; The Last Animal by Ramona Asubel. And the Colorado Book Award in novel goes to The Applicant, a novel by Nazli Koja. It's a very long walk up here.
Hello, everyone. This is so much fun. Thank you to Colorado Humanities for giving me this award, and congratulations to all the finalists in my category and all the categories and all the winners tonight. I kind of knew I would win. I don't know, I did some experiments because I was always thinking that I would move away from Denver as soon as I was done with school, which happened a couple of weeks ago. But in the last couple of months, I've realized that Denver is my home now. And I thought when I got nominated, this is a sign. And then I've decided for sure, I told everyone, but it was actually like 99%. And if I won the award, then I would definitely stay. So, thank you. Okay, so my novel is a novel in a diary format, but it starts with a random one-off prose poem, and I would like to read that short piece. Okay, I guess I guess I will take a little more time than I thought to get to this page. In the meantime, I would like to thank my partner, Daniel, who's here, and my editor at Grove, Elizabeth, and everybody who played a huge part in bringing this book here, including booksellers, Bookies. I don't know, I've never met anyone from Bookies, and I haven't been there. I don't have a car, so it's hard for me to get around. But I really want to go because Bookies, I know, I see you've been supporting my book for a while. You've been putting it on lists, and I really appreciate that. Okay, now, I found it. I found the page. To whom it may concern, I obey, I work, I appreciate. I scrub, I vacuum, I mop. I want you so bad I'll do whatever you ask. I can kill, I can steal, I can take the blame for anything you need. I can dance, I can sing, I can be your exotic queen. I can carry, I can build, I can drive you from building to building. I can be the star of your football team. I can fight all your wars for a tiny, shiny coin. 2 coins and I will proudly work in your rotten hospitals, universities, tech companies. I can live in your apartment and take care of your babies for free. It would be an honor to live under the same roof as you, your creepy husband, and your newborn baby. I can be your cheap prostitute, right here, right now. I can take it all in. If the earth collapses in on you one day, take this oath, I will be your human shield. Will you let me stay, let me stay, let me stay? Well, on that note, thank you for letting me stay. And be nice to immigrants. Thank you.
Congratulations, Nazli, and we are so glad you are staying. The next award category is poetry, and the finalists are How You Walk Alone in the Dark by Aaron Block, Maps You Can't Make by Mariella Saavedra Carquin, Still and Still Moving by Katie Scruggs Galloway. And the Colorado Book Award in Poetry goes to How You Walk Alone in the Dark by Aaron Block.
Thank you, everyone. This is so overwhelming. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the judges for your time and attention in reading our work. Thank you to Colorado Humanities and the Center for the Book. It's such an honor to be included with all of you, all of your books. We should all be proud to be here. I would like to thank Middle Creek Publishing and Audio and editor David Anthony Martin for putting my book out into the world. Thanks to my sister, Erica Block, for creating the lino cut featured on the cover. I also want to recognize Jenna Roselle. She's a Maine writer and poet whose work is the reason I started writing poetry in the first place. And finally, thank you to my husband, Jay Zimmerman. He's always my first reader, and he always has more confidence in me than I have in myself. My book is firmly rooted in place here in Colorado. It's about processing loss of lives, of loved ones, of animals, of landscapes. It's also an examination of the futility and dichotomy of life if you think about it too much, which I think most writers do. The poem I'd like to read for you this evening is called Windbreak. I don't remember sunsets as a kid, but these starlings filling out a cottonwood face west, like they know you never know when you won't get to see a day end again. Don't plan to be an old woman. That's what my mother teaches me. Show, don't tell me you're scared of the years between now and then, like cottontail tracks in snow that stop just before cover. Maybe it was an owl, a hawk, the shadow you see first and lose in trees that don't have any name but windbreak. Show, don't tell me you're hungry, like a wolf with worn down teeth, like tipped off cheatgrass where mule deer graze come February, when everything's thin like headwater creeks. The Buddha told us of this trouble. We think we have time, so we howl our plans at a full snow moon, forgetting everything wanes, and that's the way the world slouches towards starvation, one night at a time. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Erin. The next award category is romance. The finalists are Autumn of the Big Snow by Lou Jacobs, Bryn and Sebastian Hate Each Other by Bethany Turner, and Raising L by Essie Reichert. And the Colorado Book Award in romance goes to Bryn and Sebastian Hate Each Other by Bethany Turner. Bethany could not be here today, but we congratulate her on her win. The next award category is science fiction and fantasy. The finalists are Dark Moon, Shallow Sea by David R. Slayton, Not Quite Dead Geniuses at Large on an Angry Planet by R. Gary Rum, and Silenced by Anne Claycomb. And the Colorado Book Award in Science Fiction and Fantasy goes to Dark Moon, Shallow Sea by David R. Slayton.
I have to admit, I didn't expect to be here. I never expect to be here, and I like to start these things by saying, I'm not supposed to be. Gay high school dropouts who grew up in a trailer in the woods outside of Guthrie, Oklahoma, don't get to write books, and they don't get to win awards. I am very overcome with this. This book has been with me for so long, and I have to thank Joe Dunn, if you could please stand. You were supposed to buy me a second so I could calm down there, Joe. Joe was reading this book 20 years ago when I first started drafting it. It was one of the first books that I wrote, and it had ridiculous things like spider cows in it. And she was so kind and has supported me for decades on this journey. I have to thank my husband, Brian, and my very good friend, Neva. And seriously, I'm completely overcome. So I'm going to read very briefly so that I will get myself under control. It's an epic fantasy, and let's face it, if I really tried to read a lot, we'd be here for hours and you'd all be asleep. So, Rafe raised his hand and asked the question that had squirmed through his head all evening. Where does she go, Father, during the new moon? Always smiling, always laughing, Father Hennel wasn't like the stricter priests, especially the Hierophant, Father Polis. He always had an extra cookie for Rafe. The little lemon crescents the cooks bake for the snow moon, the one closest to the solstice. He took one from his pocket now. Rafe liked this game. If he proved himself clever, he'd get the cookie. If he didn't, Father Hannel would eat it, and Rafe would just pinch another from the kitchen later. The novices sat in a circle, a clutch of smaller, black-robed versions of the priest standing in the center. Father Hannel turned back and forth, including all of them in the lesson. She dies, he said, because you must be dead to enter the underworld. Then she sails the ebon sea, in her boat, the crescent moon. He bobbed the cookie through the air. But she doesn't go alone. She takes with her all the souls she's gathered, the dead. Everyone who paid the way, Rafe asked, then cringed at Hanel's smile. Hanel always laughed when Rafe won. A smile meant he hadn't been clever enough. At least Hanel was gentle. Father Polis scowled when he corrected the oblates. The coins are but a courtesy, Rafe, Hanel said. What needs our goddess with money? For books, most of the children said together. Hanel laughed. But why does she go? A girl asked. Rafe didn't remember her name. She was younger, one of the orphans. She had a sweet face and had recently lost her 2 front teeth. Catching Rafe's glance, she stuck her tongue out. He returned the favor. For 3 nights she rows the souls across the sea, to the gates of the underworld and returns. Hanel said. Then she rises, emerging from the door to fill the sky until she descends again. Where's the door? The girl asked. It hadn't been Rafe's question, but Father Hanel looked to him when he answered. It is a mystery, one of her greatest, Hanel said. He snapped his teeth shut on the cookie. Rafe woke from the dream. Thank you so much.
Congratulations again, David, and thank you so much. Our next category is short story. The finalists are Defensible Spaces by Allison Turner. This is Salvaged Stories by Vauhini Vara. Uranians Stories by Theodore McCombs. And the Colorado Book Award in short story goes to Uranians Stories by Theodore McCombs.
Wow, thank you. Wow, this is very intimidating. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to start reading. This is from the title story of the book, Uranians. It is a story about queerness. It takes place on a spaceship that is rocketing away from Earth, full of queer artists and thinkers and scientists, and going to a distant planet. All right. Half a light year from Earth, the dwarf planet 2033 VL-115 is the last large body in the solar system the ship will pass by close enough to see with the naked eye. There's a viewing party in the ballroom. Arrigo Durante wears his favorite Italian boots, which he keeps wrapped in muslin in the back of his closet. The boots are old, the leather is scuffed at the toes, and he's had to re-glue the left heel twice, but he loves them. And anyway, anyone looking down in the dark will see only underfoot stars. The ballroom, with its vast Oculus viewing portal in the floor, transforms into a nightclub, where it will always be night, and the crew dances on the glass. They cut the lights, and everyone crouches and squints when 2033 VL-115 rolls into view, a cold bite of red in the blackness. People cheer. Arrigo cheers. Anxious to enjoy the party, he overextends himself, gets too drunk, talks to too many people, throws his monkey arms around crew members he can't name, not 4 years in. He buys them rounds. He hardly dances that night. He just runs back and forth over a floor of constellations, drinks in hand, and agrees emphatically with whatever the hell they're shouting. The next day, he'll have a hangover and a sprained ankle, and no idea why. Unlike most of the stories which I wrote while here in Denver at the Lighthouse Writers Workshop, the story Uranians I wrote just after I moved away. And right in time for the pandemic to hit. So the idea of making art in a closed, tight quarter that is very far away from my home, in retrospect, it's a little on the nose, but it's very much how I felt moving away from Denver, which is always going to be my literary home. So in addition to all the people I thank in the acknowledgements, my editor, blah, 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 I want to thank the Colorado Humanities, the Colorado Book Awards, and especially the Lighthouse Writers Workshop for making this possible and for making Denver always my center of gravity. Thank you.
Congratulations once again, and thank you so much, Theodore. Our next category is thriller, and the finalists are No Child of Mine by Nichelle Giraldez, Once Upon a Lie by Rebecca Taylor, and The Girls in the Cabin by Caleb Stevens. And the Colorado Book Award in thriller goes to No Child of Mine, Nichelle Giraldez.
Hello. I guess I'll do some quick thank yous first. This is my first book, and my favorite part of writing it has been working with the huge team that has helped me put it together, from my editors to the cover designer and my copy editor, who really, I don't know a thing about commas, so thank God for her. I'm so excited to share a little bit of this story. This is a haunted house story about a young woman who falls pregnant unexpectedly. Her and her husband were never planning on having children. And then from there, a haunted house sort of situation kind of unfurls and unspirals. So I'm going to read you a little bit of her coming home for the first time after finding out that she is pregnant. The moment she stepped into the room, she felt warmer. Sunlight streamed in from the windows, and Essie stood in the square of the afternoon light. She closed her eyes and let the light wash over her. Essie loved this part of the house. Sanjay had fallen in love with the house the moment he had walked in the front door, but Essie had fallen in love with the place here. This space, as empty and run down as the rest of the house, immediately transformed on that day. The realtor had disappeared. Her loud exposition about the floors and the windows had faded out. The room had changed in Essie's head. Bookshelves lined the walls, and a big, heavy wooden desk appeared in the center of the room. But today, standing in her home alone, when she imagined this room, she couldn't picture the big wooden desk and the bookshelves lining the walls. Instead, there was a fluffy rug on the floor and a white crib. The walls were painted a shade of pink, so pale it almost looked white. All the air in her lungs left in a little puff, catching in the back of her throat, trying to hold on. This wasn't supposed to be her life. She had never imagined herself bent over a crib, smiling at a baby with her husband's dimples. She had different dreams. She imagined herself walking across the stage at her law school graduation, becoming a partner in a law firm, taking a ridiculously expensive, not at all child-friendly vacation to somewhere like the French Alps. She hadn't even realized that she was doing it, but as she thought about the life she was no longer going to get to live, her hand slid across her stomach. A flash of anger hit her. She hadn't done anything to deserve this. There were people out there who wanted desperately to have children. She knew that there were couples who had tried for years, injecting themselves with hormones and going through surgeries, and here she was, pregnant, despite every effort not to be. It was a cruel fate to be betrayed by her own body, her palm pressed into the not yet stretched skin as she imagined the little thing nestled inside of her. It wasn't its fault. Her daughter hadn't gotten to pick the mother that she would grow inside. Even before her eyes opened again, she knew that this room was no longer hers. Maybe it had never been hers. She melted down onto the floor, lying flat, eyes staring up at the water-stained ceiling, and she thought too late about the dirt on the floor and how it was now likely covering her pants. And add those to the dry cleaning list too. This little thing, this thing without eyes or fingernails or kneecaps, was already robbing her, stealing so subtly that to everyone else it would look like a gift. But Essie knew it was theft. A gift implies choice. She didn't have a choice. She was going to watch her life slowly be pulled from her fingers one whisper at a time. And the worst part about it was that Essie knew, even now, that someday soon, she too would forget that distinction. All right. Thank you so much.
Congratulations again, and thank you so much, Nichelle. Next up are our youth categories, the first of which is children's literature. The finalists are Building a Dream, How the Boys of Kopanyi Became Champions by Darshna Kayani and Dao Pumiruk. Leah and Luis, Puzzled by Anna Crespo and Giovanna Medeiros. Light Speaks by Christine Layton and Luciana Navarro Powell. And finally, Something Spectacular, A Rock's Journey by Carmela Lavinia Coyle and Carly Ellen Fletcher. And the Colorado Book Award in Children's Literature goes to Leah and Luis, Puzzled by Anna Crespo. Unfortunately, Anna cannot be here with us tonight, but her agent, Deborah Warren, is here to accept the award on her behalf. And maybe she did not know that. Deborah, we welcome you to the stage.
Okay, wow. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. So Colorado is my second home because I have lots of clients here, including 3 clients, actually, who were in this category. So Anna is very sorry she's not able to be here. She's in Portugal on a month-long trip. You know, those Europeans. So, let's see. Leah and Louise, Puzzled. This is the second book in a 3-book series. I'm just going to. Okay. Luis has an idea. He tries the pieces with 2 straight sides. There are 4 of them. They're corners. So there's actually a puzzle that they do in the book. The edges are finished. 5 minutes. Now they must focus on the middle. Sometimes the shapes seem to fit, but the colors don't match. Sometimes the colors seem to match, but the shapes don't fit. And sometimes they must turn and turn and turn the same piece until it fits perfectly. Aja. And vamos. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. The next category is juvenile literature, and the finalists are Backcountry by Jenny Gabel, Brave Bird at Wounded Knee, a story of protest on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation by Rachel Bethel and Eric Freeberg, Skyriders by Polly Holyoke, and The Girl from Earth's End by Tara Derman. And the Colorado Book Award in juvenile literature goes to Brave Bird at Wounded Knee, a story of protest on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation by Rachel Bickle and Eric Freeberg.
That was unexpected. So a few brief expressions of gratitude. First to Royal Lost His Blanket Stone Jr., who was a content consultant and sensitivity reader on this book. Couldn't have done this without him. And to Meg Gartner and everyone at Jollyfish Press, who brought this book into the world, and to Eric Freeberg for the beautiful cover and illustrations. And to the Rocky Mountain chapter of SCBWI for the community that I found there, and especially to Susan Roble. I didn't even know you were going to be here today, but this book wouldn't have happened without you. And to Tom and all of my kids, my forever kids, as well as the ones who were not forever, but especially to my son, this book, my youngest son, this book was all for him. My book is a middle grade novel that's set in 1973, and the main character is an 11-year-old girl who is half Lakota and half white, and her family lives in Denver, but her extended family, her grandmother and her aunt and her cousin, live just outside of the town of Pine Ridge on the Pine Ridge Reservation. And in 1973, about 200 protesters from the American Indian Movement and the Oglala Lakota Nation occupied the district, we would say town on the reservation, it's the district of Wounded Knee, to protest corruption in their tribal government and a long, long history of abuses from the federal government. And they chose that site, of course, because it was the site of a 1890 massacre when members of the 7th Cavalry of the United States Army killed between about 150 and 300 members of the Lakota Nation. So my main character travels with her father to visit their family during this occupation, which turned into an armed standoff between the protesters and government forces that lasted for 71 days. And I'd like to read just a little bit from this book. Patsy is my main character, and her father, returning to his hometown, has been recruited to help take some supplies into Wounded Knee. The government forces are trying to starve the protesters out. So, and Patsy is kind of wondering what, as a child, she can do. After Dad put out the oil lamp, Patsy lay awake for what seemed like hours. Dad had fixed the pump. They'd had running water again by dinner time, but he had said nothing to anyone about his plans for that night. Grandma, Aunt Marilyn, and Hank were all in the dark. Once, Patsy almost asked him about it. She tried to imagine what she'd say to him, but she wasn't sure if she wanted to talk him out of going or to talk him into letting her come. Plus, she'd have to admit to eavesdropping. From her cot next to the wood stove, Patsy listened for any sound coming from the couch where Dad slept, or was he asleep? She couldn't hear the slow breathing that usually marked his slumber. Finally, ever so quietly, Dad slipped from his blanket and sat on the edge of the couch. He must have kept his jeans and boots next to him. When he stood in the moonlight, he was dressed. He crossed the room to the door. It squeaked a bit. Patsy felt a hard lump rising in her throat. She was suddenly very scared for her father. She was about to go after him when another figure came from the other room and followed him out the door. It was Aunt Marilyn, still in her nightgown. Patsy crept to the door. Peeking through the windows, Patsy saw they had stopped on the little porch. The door was still a crack open. For the second time that day, she eavesdropped. "I'm not trying to stop you," Aunt Marilyn was saying. "I just want to know where you're going, because if you're headed into Wounded Knee, Judy is going to kill us both." "I'm only taking in food and medical supplies," Dad said. "I'm not even going into Wounded Knee, just dropping them past the bunker where the AIM guys can get to them." "Maybe you should take the rifle," Aunt Marilyn said. At the mention of the rifle, the lump in Patsy's throat sunk to her stomach. I don't need a rifle because I'm not going to shoot anyone, Dad said. But just in case. I figure an Indian who gets caught taking food to Wounded Knee is going to get off a lot easier than an Indian who gets caught taking a gun into Wounded Knee. Yeah, you always were the smart one, Dan. Nah, Marilyn, that was you. That's why you fix people and I only fix cars. Suddenly, Patsy's worry turned into an idea. The truck was parked on the other side of the house. If she moved quickly, she could sneak out the door in the bedroom and be in the truck before her dad saw her. There was no time to think. If she was going to go, she had to go now. She pulled a flannel shirt over her pajamas and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Shoving her feet into her sneakers, she hoped Aunt Marilyn would keep Dad talking for just a minute more. When she was almost to the lean-to, a thought made Patsy spin around and to return to the kitchen. The cracker tin was in the drawer, just where Grandma had left it. She grabbed the turtle charm and stuffed it into her shirt pocket. Seconds later, she was crawling into the back seat of the truck, pulling the door closed as quietly as she could. She lay down on the floor and covered herself with the dark blanket. With any luck, her dad would never know she was there. Patsy barely had enough time to take a breath before Dad climbed into the front seat. The key clicked and the engine revved. The truck turned to head down the dirt road. With a minute to think, Patsy wondered exactly what she should do now. She was afraid Dad might get hurt, but what could she do to protect him? She decided she would stay put for now. They didn't have far to go. Maybe after the drop-off, she could sneak back into the house and Dad would never know. Or maybe he'd find her and she'd have to come clean. She would cross that bridge when she had to. She pulled the turtle charm from her pocket and squeezed it tight. Kia was a survivor.
Thank you, Rachel. Our last, but certainly not least category is young adult literature. The finalists are Resbal by Byron Graves, 7% of Roe Devereux by Ellen O'Clover, Surviving Daybreak by Kendra Merritt. And the Colorado Book Award in Young Adult Literature goes to Resbal by Byron Graves.
Indiana Jones, The Karate Kid, Luke Skywalker, E.T. Those were my heroes growing up because that's all I had, that's all I saw. I never got to see an indigenous person as a hero in anything. And I think it's really hard to imagine yourself something special, to imagine yourself a hero, to imagine yourself as someone who matters when you never ever get to read a book where you see yourself in it, or you never get to watch a movie where you get to save the day. When I started writing Resbal, I wanted to give teenage Native American kids an opportunity to look at a book, to pick up a book and read it, to look at a cover of a book and see themselves as a hero, to see themselves as somebody who mattered, to see themselves as somebody who could win, to be a champion. It was a long, hard road writing this book because I couldn't find a lot of other books to mirror after. I couldn't find a lot of other things to base what I was trying to do on. But I'd like to say thank you to my wonderful, amazing agent, Terry Wolf, in the back, She believed in me when nobody else did. It's a very niche market. It's a very specific market. It's not something that you're saying, hey, we're going to go sell 1 million copies of it. It's for a very selected special audience. And when I was hopeless and jaded and tired after 7 years of trying to find an agent and trying to find a publisher who was interested, Terry gave me a shot and she believed in me. And now I'm just tired. And I also want to say thank you to my wonderful partner, Gina Marinelli, back there. She puts up with a lot as a writer who has to sacrifice a lot of time and energy and trips. She's always my #1 supporter, so I love you. Resball is a story about grief. It's a story about coming together as a community, as a team, as friends, and finding a way to collectively find a beautiful distraction that can help you heal and can help you come together and can help you refocus on what matters most in your life, love and what you're passionate about. I'm going to read you just a couple of pages. It's the very end of the first chapter. The main character is watching from the stands. It's a packed gymnasium. His older brother passed away recently, and he was the star of the basketball team. He was incredibly celebrated amongst the people on the reservation. This game that's going on in the book is the team for the very first time almost making it to the state championship. Their point guard takes his sweet time at the free throw line. Mason's hands push into his knees from exhaustion, but he's still talking. The crowd is too loud for any of us to hear what he's saying, though. It's a 1-and-1 free throw, meaning if he misses the first, it becomes a live ball. Mason winks at their point guard as he sets himself into his shooting position. The shot goes up, rattles around the rim, sneaks down toward the net, and then bounces back out. Mason grabs the rebound and jets down the court. Only seconds remain. We are down by 1 point, and almost every Bemidji player swarms at Mason like a cloud of wasps. But somehow he weaves his way out of them unscathed and heaves a shot from beyond half court. The crowd goes as silent as a graveyard. The shot is a prayer, an impossible miracle. But tonight, miracles have been happening. The buzzer cuts into the silence as we all watch the ball float toward the basket. Players from both teams stare helplessly. It ricochets hard off the rim. We were so close. My eyes get teary and my chest feels like a trash compactor closing in on itself. Everyone from our res is quiet now. The gym is filled with the cheering and whistling of the Bemidji fans, but not a single Red Lake fan has walked away yet. We are all still staring at the court like the game isn't over, like it can't be over, or like we're all collectively in a state of shock. Then our team motions to the crowd, waving like orchestra conductors, and suddenly it sounds like we won the game, and our crowd cheers one last time, as loud as we did for every flashy play. As we leave our seats and make our way to the exit, I stop walking, dead in my tracks. Jackson. I take a deep breath. Jackson hated riding the bus home after games. He'd always complain that the bus was cold and that the bumps along the country dirt roads were painful, so he'd get his coach's permission to ride home with us. My parents and I would sit in the stands as the gym emptied out, finishing what remained of our bags of popcorn. We'd debate which of Jackson's plays was our favorite as we waited for him to come out of the locker room with that big cheesy smile of his. Always asking if we saw that one play or that one dunk like we'd somehow missed it. But he's not here. We don't need to wait. And the thought feels like another gut punch, the same kind I feel every time I remember he's gone. And it breaks me into pieces for the millionth time. Wes puts his hand on my shoulder like he knows exactly what I'm thinking. He gives me the same "I'm here for you" nod that he always gives me when I freeze up. We walk carefully across the icy parking lot to our rusted-out minivan. Even in the dark parking lot, it's easy to spot. The white garbage bag and duct tape covering the passenger side window kind of stands out. Nobody lost that one, Dad says as he puts his jacket on and fishes a cigarette out of his inner coat pocket. Jackson would have been proud of his teammates. He would have been so proud.
Thank you, Byron. And thank you, Deb and Leah. Wonderful job. Appreciate all of your time. Congratulations to all the Colorado Book Award winners and finalists. Let's have another round of applause for them. Now, would all of the award winners please take 15 minutes or so to congratulate each other and then gather for a group photograph here on the stage. We want to be sure to capture this historic moment while you're all here. We have packets for the award winners with certificates and stickers and other goodies at the registration table where you checked in, so please stop by there as well. Thank you all for joining us for the 33rd Annual Colorado Book Awards. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a safe journey home.